The space station floated quietly above the green and blue planet called Kepler 442b. It was not a large station, but it was home to many different species from across the galaxy. The hallways curved gently, and soft lights changed colors to make everyone comfortable. Some aliens needed blue light, others preferred red, and humans like Hana liked the warm yellow that reminded them of Earth's sun. Hana Kim was 8 years old, and the only human child on the entire station. She had straight black hair that her mother cut every month, dark eyes that noticed everything, and a habit of asking questions that made adults uncomfortable. Her parents worked for Earth's diplomatic mission, which meant they talked to aliens all day about boring things like trade agreements and cultural exchanges. The station was supposed to be a place where different species learned to live together. The Galactic Council had built it 5 years ago as an experiment in cooperation. So far, the experiment was working, most of the time. Hana shared her classroom with 12 other children, though none of them looked anything like her. There were 4 Velen children who looked like walking crystals. Their bodies were made of something that looked like colored glass, and they hummed when they talked. The sound was pretty, like wind chimes, but it took Hana 3 months to understand their language. The other children were Thrace, a species that looked like lizards that walked on 2 legs. They had scales in different colors, green, brown, and one girl named Sura, who had beautiful purple scales. The Thrace moved slowly and thought about everything carefully before speaking. Hana's teacher once said that Thrace children were naturally patient, which made Hana feel bad because she was not patient at all. Every morning, Hana walked to school through the curved hallways. The station's gravity was lighter than Earth's, so she bounced a little when she walked. Her mother told her to stop bouncing because it was not diplomatic, but Hana could not help it. Bouncing was fun. The classroom had no chairs because half the students did not need them. The Velen children simply stood, and the Thrace preferred to sit on heated rocks. Hana had a cushion, which she thought was fair. The walls of the classroom could turn into screens, and their teacher, a Velen named Velrock, used them to show lessons about mathematics, science, and galactic history. Hana was good at mathematics. She was very good at science, but she was best at strategy games. During free time, the children played different games. The Velen children liked to create music together, their bodies humming in harmony. The Thrace children enjoyed a game that involved slowly moving colored stones across a board, thinking for long minutes before each move. Hana found these games boring. She preferred the old Earth strategy games she had on her datapad, games where armies moved across maps, where you had to think about supply lines and terrain and weather, games where you had to predict what your opponent would do 3 moves ahead. She played against the computer and won most of the time. Her friend Jiho, a Velen boy whose body glowed soft blue, once asked her why she liked those games. "They are about fighting," he said, his voice chiming with confusion. "Why do you want to pretend to fight?" Hana had to think about that. "I do not want to fight," she said. "I want to figure out the puzzle. Each battle is like a puzzle. How do you win with what you have?" Jiho did not understand, but he was her friend anyway. The adult aliens worried about Hana. She knew this because they talked about her when they thought she was not listening. But Hana had learned that if she sat very still and quiet in the station's library, the adults forgot she was there. "The human child is obsessed with warfare," she heard Velrock say one day to another teacher. "She reads nothing but military history, battle accounts, strategic analyses. It is disturbing." "Humans are a young species," the other teacher replied. "They have only just achieved space travel. Perhaps she does not understand that such things are primitive." "We must guide her," Velrock said. "Show her that violence is not the answer to anything. Her people have such a terrible history. Someone must help her understand." Hana did not think her interests were disturbing. She thought military history was fascinating. Earth had thousands of years of different battles, different weapons, different strategies. Each culture had fought differently. The Romans had their legions, the Mongols had their horse archers, the British had their naval power. Each one had been brilliant in its own way. She tried to explain this once to Sura, the Thrace girl with purple scales. "Look," Hana said, showing her datapad. "This is the Battle of Cannae. Hannibal was outnumbered, but he won by letting the enemy push into the center while his cavalry went around the sides. See? It is beautiful." Sura looked at the diagram and shivered, her scales clicking together. "So many died," she whispered. "How is that beautiful?" Hana felt confused. She was not talking about the dying. She was talking about the thinking. But she could not make Sura understand. Her parents tried to get her interested in other things. Her father, Daewon, brought her books about art and music. Her mother bought her a virtual garden simulator. But Hana kept returning to her military history books. "It is just a phase," she heard her mother tell her father one night. "She will grow out of it." "I hope so," her father replied. "The other diplomats are starting to talk. They think humans are too violent for the Galactic Council." Hana pressed her ear against her bedroom wall to hear more. "Let them talk," her mother said firmly. "Hana is a child exploring human history. There is nothing wrong with that." But Hana could hear the worry in her mother's voice. The next day at school, Velrock made an announcement. "I will be hosting special evening sessions," he said. His crystalline body glowing with what Hana had learned was excitement. "These sessions will be educational discussions about history and philosophy. Any student is welcome to attend." He looked directly at Hana when he said it. Jiho leaned close to her. "You should go," he chimed softly. "Velrock is very wise. Maybe he will talk about things you like." Hana nodded slowly. She had a feeling these sessions were meant specifically for her. The adults wanted to teach her something. She was curious about what it would be. That evening, she told her parents about the invitation. Her father and mother exchanged glances. "Do you want to go?" her father asked. Hana nodded. "Velrock is a good teacher, and he said we will talk about history." "Then you should go," her mother said, but she looked uncertain. 3 days later, Hana arrived at Velrock's quarters for the first evening session. The room was decorated with crystals that sang softly, filling the air with gentle music. Velrock was there, and so was Commander Kess, a Thrace military officer who sometimes visited the school. "Welcome, Hana," Velrock said, his voice warm and harmonic. "We are glad you came. Tonight we want to share some stories with you, stories from Earth's history." Hana sat on her cushion, her eyes bright with interest. "We thought," Commander Kess said slowly, his reptilian eyes watching her carefully, "that you should hear these stories. They are important. They will help you understand why your people must move beyond their violent past." Hana tilted her head. "I already know Earth's history is violent." "Yes," Velrock said gently, "but perhaps you do not understand how terrible it truly was. These are not stories to celebrate, child. These are warnings. These are scary stories." Hana settled into her cushion, completely focused. "I am ready," she said. "Tell me the stories." Velrock's body dimmed until his glow was barely visible. He wanted to create the right mood for scary stories. Commander Kess sat very still on his heated rock, his scaled tail wrapped around his feet. Both of them looked at Hana with serious expressions. "We will start," Velrock said, "with one of your ancient wars, the Greco-Persian Wars." The crystals in the room stopped singing. Holographic images appeared in the air between them. Hana saw soldiers in ancient armor, carrying shields and spears. She leaned forward, fascinated. Velrock told the story of Thermopylae. He described how King Leonidas and 300 Spartan warriors faced a Persian army of hundreds of thousands. He spoke about the narrow mountain pass, the 3 days of fighting, and how all the Spartans died. His voice was heavy with sorrow. "They knew they would die," Velrock said. "Yet they fought anyway. So much death, so much suffering. This is what humanity was like, Hana. Is this not terrible?" Hana was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "But why did the Persians attack from the front?" Velrock's glow flickered with confusion. "What do you mean?" "The pass was narrow," Hana explained, pointing at the hologram. "That made the Persian numbers useless. They could only fight a few soldiers at a time. The Persians should have found another route, or used their navy to go around, or waited and starved them out. Attacking straight into the pass was tactically wrong." Commander Kess exchanged a look with Velrock. This was not the reaction they expected. "Child," Kess said slowly, "you are missing the point. 300 men died. The horror is in the death, not the tactics." "But they chose to die for a reason," Hana said. "They were buying time for their city-states to prepare defenses. It was a strategic sacrifice, and it worked." The Persians eventually lost the war. Velrock hummed, a sound that meant he was uncertain. He decided to try a different story. "Let me tell you about your Mongol invasions," he said. The hologram changed. Now it showed riders on horses, armies sweeping across plains, cities burning. Velrock described Genghis Khan and his descendants. He talked about the millions who died, the civilizations destroyed, the fear that spread across 2 continents. "The Mongols," Velrock said, "were like a plague upon your world. They showed no mercy. They killed entire populations. Surely this frightens you." Hana studied the hologram carefully. "The Mongols were incredible at logistics," she said. "Look at their supply lines. They could move armies faster than anyone else because each rider had multiple horses. And their communication system using riders and signals meant their generals could coordinate across huge distances. For their time period, they were revolutionary." Kess's scales rippled with frustration. "You admire them?" "I admire their innovations," Hana said. "I do not admire the killing, but you can learn from their methods without copying their cruelty. The Mongols also protected trade routes and exchanged knowledge between East and West. It was complicated." The evening continued like this. Velrock and Kess told story after story, each one chosen to show the horror of human warfare. They described the Napoleonic Wars, the American Civil War, the trenches of World War I. Each time they expected Hana to be frightened or disgusted. Instead, she analyzed. When they described Napoleon's invasion of Russia, she pointed out his logistical failures. "He did not prepare for winter," she said. "His supply lines were too long. The Russians used their geography as a weapon. Napoleon should have known better." When they told her about Gettysburg, she asked questions about why the Confederate general ordered Pickett's charge. "It was suicide," she said. "They had to cross open ground against fortified positions with artillery. The casualties were predictable. Why did Lee give that order?" By the time they described the Battle of the Somme, with its millions of casualties and terrible trench warfare, Velrock was glowing with confusion, and Kess looked exhausted. "On the first day," Hana said, studying the hologram, "the British lost almost 60,000 men. But they kept using the same tactics, day after day, month after month. That is not bravery. That is bad leadership. The generals were not learning from their mistakes." "Enough," Kess said quietly. "Hana, do you feel nothing for all these deaths?" Hana looked up, surprised. "Of course I do. War is terrible. All those people died. That is sad." "Then why do you keep analyzing the tactics?" Velrock asked. Hana thought about this. "Because understanding what went wrong helps prevent future mistakes. If you do not learn from these battles, then everyone died for nothing. But if you study them, you can understand what works and what does not. You can be smarter next time. There should not be a next time, Kess said firmly. The Thrace people have not had a war in 600 years. The Velen have never had a true war. We evolved beyond such things. Humanity must do the same. But you still have a military, Hana pointed out, looking at Kess. You are a commander. If wars are impossible, why do you exist? Kess was silent for a long moment. I am ceremonial, he finally said. We maintain military traditions for historical purposes, but we do not actually fight. What if someone attacked you? Hana asked. No one would, Velrock said confidently. The galaxy is at peace. We have been at peace for centuries. Hana wanted to ask more questions, but she saw her father standing in the doorway. Daewon looked tired and slightly worried. Time to come home, Hana, he said gently. As they walked back to their quarters, Daewon said, The teachers told me you were analyzing battle tactics all evening. They told me scary stories, Hana said, but they were not really scary. They were interesting. Her father sighed. Hana, you need to understand. The other species are not like us. They think our history is frightening. They worry that humans are too violent. But I am not violent, Hana protested. I just like learning about strategy. I know, her father said. But to them, being interested in warfare at all is strange. Their species never fought the way we did. They do not understand why we had so many wars. Did they ever ask? Hana said. Her father stopped walking. He looked down at his daughter. What do you mean? Did they ask why humans fought so much? Or did they just decide we were bad? Daewon did not have a good answer for that. The evening sessions continued for the next 2 weeks. Each time, Velrock and Kess presented more of Earth's terrible history. They showed her World War II, the atomic bombs, the Holocaust, the Cold War. They spoke of atrocities and destruction, trying to make her understand the cost of violence. And each time, Hana listened carefully and then asked questions about strategy, logistics, intelligence gathering, and military innovation. Word spread through the station. The adult aliens began talking. How could a human child listen to stories of terrible wars and only care about tactics? What kind of species raised their children to think this way? Jiho told Hana that his parents were concerned. Sura stopped sitting near her at lunch. Even some of the human adults on the station started looking at her strangely. But Hana did not understand what she had done wrong. She was just interested in history. She was just trying to learn. On the 14th evening session, something changed. After Velrock finished describing a particularly brutal battle from the 30 Years' War, he asked, Hana, do you ever have nightmares about these stories? Hana shook her head. No. Should I? Most children would, Kess said. Most adults would. These are horror stories. They are sad, Hana agreed. But they are also history. They already happened. Being scared of them now does not change anything. Velrock's glow suddenly brightened. I understand now, he said. You are too young to grasp the emotional weight. We have been trying to teach the wrong lesson. He looked at Commander Kess. We need to show her something bigger, something so terrible that even she cannot analyze it away. Kess nodded slowly. The world wars and the atomic age, presented properly with full scope. What are you planning? Hana asked. Velrock's crystalline body chimed with determination. We are going to hold a special presentation. We will invite the entire station. Everyone should understand what humanity is truly capable of. And everyone should see why your people must change. Hana felt a small flutter in her stomach. This sounded important, and possibly not good. The station's conference hall was full. Hana had never seen so many aliens gathered in one place. There were Velen of every color, their crystalline bodies glowing softly in the dim light. Dozens of Thrace sat on their heated benches, scales gleaming. There were even representatives from 3 other species that lived on lower levels of the station. Hana sat in the front row between her parents. Her mother held her hand tightly. Her father looked uncomfortable in his formal diplomatic clothes. Behind them, Hana could hear the whispers. The aliens were talking about her. She caught words like disturbing and concerning and too young to understand. She tried to sit up straight and look calm, but her stomach felt tight. Velrock stood on the stage, his body glowing brighter than usual. Next to him was Commander Kess, and next to Kess was someone new. A Thrace wearing a uniform covered in medals and symbols. This was Admiral Thress, Kess had explained earlier. He was visiting from the Thrace homeworld and was very important. Admiral Thress was bigger than other Thrace, with dark red scales that looked almost black. His eyes were sharp and missed nothing. When those eyes looked at Hana, she felt like she was being examined under a microscope. "Thank you all for coming," Velrock announced, his voice resonating through the hall. "Tonight we gather to address an important matter. Humanity's application to join the Galactic Council is under review. But there are concerns, serious concerns about whether this species is ready for membership." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Hana felt her mother's hand squeeze tighter. "Tonight," Admiral Thress said, his voice deep and slow, "we will examine the evidence. We will look at humanity's history without judgment, but also without looking away. And then we will discuss what this means for their future among the stars." The lights dimmed further. The stage disappeared, and suddenly they were surrounded by holograms. Hana gasped. She was standing on a battlefield. Well, not really standing there, but the hologram was so realistic, it felt real. The Battle of the Somme materialized around them. Trenches stretched in every direction. Hana could see the mud, the barbed wire, the shell craters filled with water. Then the battle began. Soldiers went over the top, running into machine gun fire. The sounds were terrible. Explosions, screaming, the wounded calling for help. Many aliens in the audience made sounds of distress. Some closed their eyes or covered their ears. The hologram showed the casualties, the wounded, the faces of young men who would never go home. Hana watched it all. Her face was pale, but she kept watching. The scene changed. Now they were in a city. Dresden, the caption said. Fire fell from the sky. Buildings burned. People ran through streets turned into ovens. The firestorm consumed everything. More aliens looked away. Jiho, sitting 3 rows back, made a high-pitched sound of fear. His parents pulled him close. The hologram continued. Hiroshima, Nagasaki, the atomic flash, the mushroom cloud. The shadows burned into walls where people had stood. The radiation sickness. The children with burns covering their bodies. "This," Admiral Thress said, his voice cutting through the horror, "is what humanity created. These are the weapons they built to use against each other." The scene changed again. The Cold War. Missiles in silos. Submarines carrying nuclear weapons. The numbers displayed on the hologram were staggering. Thousands of weapons. Enough to destroy Earth many times over. "They created weapons that could end their own world," Velrock said sadly. "And for decades they balanced on the edge of using them. This is the species asking to join our peaceful galaxy." The hologram froze. The lights came back up. The audience sat in shocked silence. Admiral Thress turned to look directly at Hana. "Child," he said, "you have been analyzing warfare for weeks. You have been correcting tactics and discussing strategy. Now you have seen the ultimate result of all that military thinking. What do you have to say?" Every eye in the hall turned to Hana. She could feel the weight of their stares. Her mouth was dry. She wanted to shrink down in her seat and disappear. But then she thought about what she had just seen. Really thought about it. Slowly, Hana stood up. Her legs felt shaky, but she stood. "May I approach the display controls?" she asked, her voice small but clear. Admiral Thress looked surprised. He glanced at Velrock, who nodded. "You may," the Admiral said. Hana walked to the stage, her footsteps echoing in the silent hall. She reached the control panel and began pulling up different images. Her hands moved quickly, calling up maps and data. "The Battle of the Somme," she said, her voice getting stronger. "Yes, it was terrible, but look at this." She pulled up a tactical map. The British commanders were using tactics from the previous century. Linear formations against machine guns. They did not adapt. See here? This is where they should have concentrated their artillery. This is where they should have probed for weaknesses. They made the same mistakes every day for months. She changed the display. Dresden, a firebombing of a city full of civilians. Was it militarily necessary? Look at the target analysis. Most historians say no. It was about breaking morale, about revenge. The strategic value was minimal compared to the cost. Admiral Thress started to speak, but Hana continued. And the atomic bombs. She pulled up data about the Pacific War. Japan was already losing. The Soviet Union was about to invade. Some historians think Japan would have surrendered within months anyway. Others disagree. But here is what matters. After Hiroshima and Nagasaki, humans saw what these weapons could do, and they stopped. She turned to face the audience. The Cold War. You showed all those weapons, thousands of nuclear missiles. Yes, humans built them. But you know what else humans did? They did not use them. Hana pulled up more data. Look, arms control treaties, non-proliferation agreements, hotlines between enemies so they could talk during crises. Humans came so close to destroying themselves that they got scared. Really scared, and they worked to pull back from the edge. Her father was staring at her with wide eyes. Her mother had tears running down her face. "You think our history makes us dangerous?" Hana said. "Maybe it does. But it also taught us lessons that you never had to learn. You evolved on peaceful worlds. You never had to understand what happens when warfare goes too far. We did. We learned it the hard way." She looked at Admiral Thress. "You want to know why I analyze tactics? Because if you understand tactics, you understand how battles can go wrong. If you understand strategy, you understand how wars start. And if you understand how wars start, maybe you can stop them." The hall was completely silent. "Humans made terrible mistakes," Hana said quietly. "We killed each other for thousands of years. We created weapons that could end our world, but we are still here. We survived ourselves, and now we are trying to be better." She pulled up one last image. Earth, blue and green and beautiful, floating in space. "This is our world. We almost destroyed it, but we did not. We chose to reach for the stars instead. We chose to come here, to meet you, to learn from you. Is that not worth something?" Admiral Thress was staring at her. His reptilian face was hard to read, but something in his eyes had changed. Commander Kess stood up slowly. "The child makes interesting points," he said. "But surely—" "Wait," a new voice said. Everyone turned. A human woman stood up in the middle of the audience. Hana recognized her as Mirai, one of the scientists who studied alien cultures. "If I may speak," Mirai said, walking toward the stage. "There is something the Galactic Council has not fully understood about Earth." Admiral Thress gestured for her to continue. Mirai stepped onto the stage and pulled up a new hologram. "This is Earth," she said. The planet rotated slowly. "Now compare it to the Velen homeworld." Another planet appeared. "And the Thrace homeworld." A third planet. "Do you see the differences?" Mirai asked. Mirai made the three planets rotate side by side. Hana looked at them carefully, seeing them together for the first time. "The Velen homeworld," Mirai said, pointing to the first planet, "is one massive continent. Almost all the land is connected. Resources are distributed evenly across the surface. There are no major oceans dividing populations." The climate is stable and predictable. She moved to the second planet. The Thrace homeworld has 7 major land masses, but they are all connected by land bridges. During most of your evolutionary history, Thrace could walk from any continent to any other. Your resources are abundant. Your world has 3 times the arable land of Earth, but only experienced 1 ice age in its entire history. Then she pointed to Earth. Now look at this. 7 continents, completely separated by oceans. Resources concentrated in specific regions. Climate zones that change dramatically. Ice ages that came and went, forcing populations to migrate or die. Deserts, mountains, jungles, tundra, all creating natural barriers between human populations. The hologram zoomed in on Earth, showing its history. Hannah watched as her world changed over thousands of years. Ice advanced and retreated. Seas rose and fell. Forests became grasslands, became deserts. Humans did not evolve in paradise, Mireille said quietly. We evolved in a pressure cooker. Our planet forced us to compete not just with each other but with everything. The climate changed constantly. Megafauna predators hunted us. Diseases swept through our populations. And we were divided by oceans, by mountains, by deserts. She pulled up new data. Let me show you something else. On the Velen homeworld, there were 3 sentient species that evolved at roughly the same time. They met, they communicated, and they merged into one civilization. On the Thrace homeworld, there were 2 sentient species. They coexisted peacefully for thousands of years before becoming one people. Admiral Thress leaned forward, interested despite himself. On Earth, Mireille continued, there were at least 6 sentient human species. Homo sapiens, Neanderthals, Denisovans, Homo erectus, Homo floresiensis, and others. We did not all merge peacefully. We competed for the same resources in a world that did not have enough for everyone. Some species interbred with us, others died out. And humans, modern humans, learned that survival meant being better at thinking, planning, and strategizing than anyone else. She turned to face the audience. You call us violent. You call us primitive. But you do not understand. We are not violent because we are morally inferior. We are violent because our world made us that way. Every single aspect of Earth's geography and history pushed us toward conflict. Hannah watched as Mireille pulled up more data. Comparisons between Earth and other homeworlds in the galaxy. The patterns were clear. Look at this, Mireille said. Every species in the Galactic Council comes from a world with abundant resources and connected land masses. You evolved in environments where cooperation was easier than competition, where there was enough for everyone, where geographic barriers did not divide you into thousands of competing groups. She paused. Humans evolved in the exact opposite conditions, and we survived. More than survived, we thrived. We turned our competitive nature into art, science, philosophy, and yes, warfare. We learned to think strategically about everything because we had to. Velrock's glow had changed color, flickering between confusion and understanding. Are you saying that humanity's violence is natural, that it cannot be changed? No, Mireille said firmly. I am saying that humanity's strategic thinking is natural. Violence was how we applied that thinking for most of our history, but thinking strategically and acting violently are not the same thing. We can keep one and abandon the other. Admiral Thress stood up slowly. His scaled face was thoughtful. This is interesting theory, Dr. Mireille, but theory does not change what we have seen. Humanity has killed billions of its own kind, created weapons of mass destruction, nearly destroyed your own world multiple times. Yes, Mireille agreed. We did all of that, and then we stopped ourselves. She pulled up a new timeline. Look at this carefully. Human history spans 200,000 years. For 195,000 of those years, we fought with sticks and stones. For the last 5,000 years, we fought with increasingly terrible weapons. And for the last 80 years, just 80 years out of 200,000, we have had the power to destroy our entire species. The timeline glowed in the air. 80 years with nuclear weapons. 80 years with the power to end everything. And we did not use them. Yes, we came close, but we pulled back. We created treaties. We reduced our arsenals. We built systems to prevent accidents. We learned. Hana felt her heart beating fast. She had never thought about it this way before. Every other species in this room, Mirai said, her voice passionate now, evolved in conditions that made peace easier than war. You developed wisdom slowly, over millions of years, because you had that luxury. Humans did not have that luxury. We had to learn wisdom quickly, or die. And we learned. In just 80 years, we went from using atomic weapons to controlling them, from the brink of extinction to reaching for the stars. She looked around the hall. You think we are dangerous. Maybe we are, but we are also survivors. We are problem solvers. We are strategic thinkers who learned our lessons the hardest way possible. Is that not exactly the kind of species you want in your council? The hall erupted in voices. Aliens talking to each other in a dozen languages. Some sounded angry, others sounded thoughtful, a few sounded frightened. Admiral Thress raised his hand for silence. Slowly, the hall quieted. You make compelling arguments, he said to Mirai. Then he looked at Hana. And you, child, have shown remarkable insight for one so young. He was quiet for a long moment, thinking. The entire hall waited. I came to this station, Thress finally said, to recommend against humanity's membership in the Council. I believed your species was too young, too violent, too unstable. I thought you needed another 1,000 years of peace before you would be ready. Hana held her breath. But perhaps, Thress continued, I was measuring you by the wrong standard. Perhaps asking humans to be peaceful like Velen or patient like Thrace is like asking a fish to climb a tree. You are what your world made you. The question is not whether you are like us. The question is whether you can contribute to the Council despite being different. He looked at Mirai, then back at Hana. Or perhaps because you are different. Velroc's body chimed softly. Admiral, are you suggesting... I am suggesting nothing yet, Thress interrupted. I am thinking. Something I should have done more of before I came here. He walked down from the stage and stood in front of Hana. Up close, he was enormous, towering over her. But his eyes were not unkind. Tell me, young one, he said, if humanity joined the Council, what would you do with all this strategic knowledge you love so much? Would you teach us how to make war? Hana thought very carefully before answering. No, she said. I would teach you how to think about problems the way soldiers think. How to predict what others might do. How to plan for dangers before they happen. How to use limited resources in smart ways. War is just one application of strategic thinking. There are many others. Such as? Thress asked. Emergency response, Hana said, the ideas coming quickly now. Disaster relief, resource distribution, defense against accidents or natural threats. Anytime you have to solve a complicated problem with many moving parts, strategic thinking helps. Thress nodded slowly. And if someone did attack the Council? If all our centuries of peace ended? Hana met his eyes. Then you would need someone who understands warfare. Not to make war, but to end it as quickly as possible with as few casualties as possible. That is what good strategy does. The Admiral was quiet for a long time. Then, unexpectedly, he performed the Thrace gesture of respect. His massive body bent forward, arms extended. I will recommend further consideration, he said. That is all I can promise. But it is more than I would have promised this morning. The hall exploded in conversation again. Hana's mother pulled her into a tight hug. Her father looked stunned. Jiho pushed through the crowd and ran to Hana. "That was amazing," he chimed. "You were so brave." But Hana did not feel brave. She felt tired and a little confused about everything that had just happened. As the aliens filed out of the hall, still talking and debating, Velrock approached Hana and her family. "I owe you an apology," he said to Hana. "I tried to frighten you away from your interests. I thought I was helping you. But perhaps I was only showing my own ignorance." "It is okay," Hana said. "You were trying to teach me. That is what teachers do." Velrock's glow softened. "Perhaps," he said. "There is more than one lesson here." 3 weeks passed. Life on the station slowly returned to normal, though normal was different now. Aliens who had avoided Hana before now nodded to her in the hallways. Some even stopped to ask her questions about Earth history or human thinking. Admiral Thress had returned to the Thrace homeworld to file his report. The Galactic Council would make their decision about humanity's membership in a few months. Meanwhile, the station continued its work as a place where different species learned to live together. Hana went back to school. She still played her strategy games, but now Jiho and even Sura sometimes watched and asked questions. They did not understand the appeal, but they were trying to understand Hana. That felt good. Everything seemed peaceful. Then, on a normal Tuesday morning, the alarm started. Hana was in class when the lights turned red. A loud sound echoed through the hallways. Everyone looked up in confusion. "Attention," a calm voice said over the station speakers. "This is not a drill. All residents please proceed to your designated safe rooms. Security teams report to command center. Repeat, this is not a drill." Velrock's crystalline body flashed with alarm colors. "Children, quickly, follow me." They hurried through the corridors. Other aliens were moving quickly too, but no one was panicking. Not yet. No one knew what was happening. Hana's parents met her at the safe room entrance. Daewon pulled her close. "Stay here," he said. "Your mother and I need to go to the diplomatic center." "What is happening?" Hana asked. "We do not know yet," her mother said. "But we will find out. Be safe." They hurried away. Hana sat with the other children in the safe room. The walls were thick, and there were supplies for several days if needed. But why would they need them? Jiho pressed close to Hana. "I am scared," he chimed softly. "Me too," Hana admitted. 30 minutes passed. Then Velrock's voice came through the safe room's communication panel. "Hana Kim, you are requested in the command center immediately." The other children stared at her. Why would they want a child in the command center during an emergency? Hana ran through the corridors, following the guide lights. Her heart pounded in her chest. She burst through the command center doors and stopped, trying to understand what she was seeing. The room was full of adults and screens showing different parts of the station. Her parents stood near the back. Commander Kess sat at a control panel, looking frustrated. Admiral Thress was there too. When had he returned? And Mireille was pointing at a large display showing... Hana stepped closer. The display showed dozens of small flying machines. They looked like the maintenance drones that repaired the outside of the station, but these were moving in strange patterns. "What are those?" Hana asked. "Autonomous drones from the old mining facility on Kepler's moon," Kess explained quickly. "The facility was abandoned 10 years ago. Apparently its AI system just woke up. The drones think the station is a threat to the facility. They are approaching with what the AI considers defensive intent." "Can you just turn them off?" Hana asked. "We tried," Mireille said. "The AI is not responding to any commands. It is operating on very old protocols. Protocols from before modern safety systems existed." Admiral Thress was studying a tactical display. His face looked grim. We have security forces positioned at the likely entry points, but these drones are adapting. Every position we set up, they find a way around within minutes. Hana moved closer to the display. She watched the drones' movement patterns. They were not moving randomly. There was intelligence there. Artificial intelligence, but still intelligent. "How long until they reach the station?" she asked. 18 minutes at current speed, Kess said, and we still have not found an effective defensive formation. Hana stared at the display. Something about the pattern was familiar. "They are learning from you," she said. Everyone turned to look at her. "See?" Hana pointed at the screen. "Every time you set up a defensive position, they scan it and adapt their approach. They are using machine learning. Each attempt teaches them more about your tactics." "We understand that," Thress said, not unkindly. "But we do not know how to counter it. Every defense we create just educates them further." Hana thought hard. This was like a strategy game. An enemy that learned from every move. How did you beat an enemy that adapted? The answer came to her suddenly. "You do not try to hide your defenses," she said. "You show them fake defenses." Kess looked confused. "What do you mean?" "You set up obvious defensive positions," Hana explained, talking faster now. "Really obvious ones. Ones that look strong but actually are not important. The drones will scan them and adapt their route to avoid them. But that is what you want. You want them to avoid those positions and go where you are actually waiting." She pointed at the display. "Look, if you put defenders here, here, and here," she indicated 3 locations, "the drones will calculate that the best approach is through this corridor, but that is where your real defenses are. Not spread out, concentrated." Admiral Thress leaned forward, studying the display. "Deception," he said slowly. "We feed false information to their learning algorithm." "Yes," Hana said, "and you keep doing it. Every time they adapt, you give them new false information. Stay 3 steps ahead." Mirai looked at Hana with surprise. "That is actually brilliant. We have been trying to make the best defensive positions. We should have been making the best fake positions." "Will it work?" Kess asked. "I do not know," Thress admitted. "But it is better than what we have tried so far." He looked at Hana. "Can you help us plan these deceptions?" Hana nodded. For the next 15 minutes, the command center became a strange mix of human child and alien military officers working together. Hana suggested positions, and Thress evaluated them. Kess coordinated the security teams. Mirai monitored the drones' responses. "First fake position established," Kess reported. "Drones are scanning it now." On the display, the drones' paths shifted slightly. They were avoiding the obvious defensive position. "Good," Hana said. "Now put the real defenders here. Make it look like a maintenance area, something they will ignore." The security teams moved quickly. Minutes ticked by. "Second fake position," Hana directed, "but this time, make it look weak, like you made a mistake." Machines think logically. They will target what looks like a weakness. "Clever," Thress murmured, "using their strength against them." The drones entered the station's outer ring. Alarms sounded. On the screens, Hana could see the small machines moving through corridors, scanning for threats. "They are approaching the weak position," Kess said tensely. "Wait," Hana said. "Let them commit. Let them think they found your mistake." The drones converged on the weak position. Suddenly, a force field activated, trapping them in a dead-end corridor. The real defenders were above and below, not where the drones expected. "Containment field holding," Kess reported. "We have 12 drones captured." But there were still more coming. Hana directed the teams through wave after wave. Fake positions here, real defenders there. Always staying ahead of the drones' learning patterns. "They are adapting faster now," Mirai warned. "They have more data." "Then we change the pattern completely," Hana said. Stop using fake defensive positions. Use fake attack positions instead. Make them think we are coming at them." "But we are not attacking," Kess said, confused. "They do not know that," Hana explained. "If they think we are attacking, they switch to defensive mode. That changes their whole behavior algorithm." Thress smiled, showing his sharp Thrace teeth. "I am beginning to understand how humans think." "Very well. Implement the new strategy." It took another hour, but eventually, all the drones were either captured or disabled. Not a single person on the station was hurt. The command center erupted in relieved conversations. Kess slumped in his chair, exhausted. Mireille laughed, the sound slightly hysterical with relief. Admiral Thress walked over to where Hana stood. Her parents were already there, hugging her tightly. "I have been a military officer for 90 years, Thress said quietly. "I have studied tactics and strategy my entire life, but it has been ceremonial, theory. I have never fought a real engagement." He performed the Thrace bow again. "Today, an 8-year-old human child taught me more about practical tactics than I learned in 9 decades. This is humbling and enlightening." Velrock approached, his crystalline body glowing warm colors. "I tried to scare you away from warfare," he said to Hana. "I thought studying battles was wrong, harmful. But today, you used that knowledge to save lives. To protect without violence." "Strategic thinking is just problem-solving," Hana said simply. "It can be used for bad things or good things. That is our choice." Commander Kess stood up slowly. "The Galactic Council needs to know about this," he said. "Not just what happened, but what it means." Admiral Thress nodded. "I will personally write a new report. My previous recommendation was for further consideration. My new recommendation will be immediate acceptance. The Council has been at peace for so long that we have forgotten how to think like soldiers. We have forgotten that sometimes you need to understand conflict to prevent it." He looked around the command center. "Humanity understands. They paid a terrible price for that understanding, but they have it. And today proved that this knowledge can save lives instead of taking them." Hana's mother was crying again. Her father looked proud and slightly stunned. Jiho came running into the command center, even though he was supposed to stay in the safe room. "Hana, are you okay? Everyone is saying you saved the station." "I just suggested ideas," Hana said. "All these adults did the real work." "Ideas matter," Thress said. "Sometimes ideas matter more than anything else." The crisis was over. Slowly, life on the station returned to normal once again, but it was a different normal now. The next week, Hana's strategy game suddenly became popular. Several alien children asked to learn how to play. Even some adults wanted to try. Velrock started a new class about military history, but with a different approach. Not to frighten students, but to teach them about problem-solving under pressure, about thinking ahead, about strategy as a tool, not a weapon. Mirai began writing a paper about Earth's unique evolutionary environment, about how scarcity and competition shaped human thinking, about how humanity's violent past could be valuable for the galaxy's peaceful future. And Admiral Thress returned to the Thrace homeworld and told the Galactic Council something they needed to hear. Sometimes the species that lived through war were the ones best equipped to prevent it. Sometimes the galaxy needed warriors who had learned to use their skills for peace. Sometimes an 8-year-old child could teach admirals about tactics, not because she was violent, but because she understood patterns and problems and possibilities. 2 months later, the message came through. The Galactic Council had voted to accept humanity as a full member. There were conditions, of course. There always were. But humanity was in. Hana's parents celebrated with the other human diplomats. The station threw a party where dozens of species shared food and music, and Hana sat with Jiho in a quiet corner, teaching him about flanking maneuvers and supply lines and the importance of high ground. "I still do not understand why this is fun," Jiho chimed. "It is like music," Hana said, "but with armies instead of notes." "That makes no sense," Jiho said. "I know," Hana agreed, "but it does not have to make sense to you. It just has to make sense to me." Jiho thought about that. "So humans think differently than us? And that is okay?" "That is okay," Hana confirmed. "Different is just different. Not bad, not wrong. Just different." "I like different," Jiho decided. "Me too," Hana said, and she smiled. Above them, through the station's windows, Earth rose over the horizon of Kepler 442b, blue and green and beautiful, a violent world that had taught its children to survive, and then taught them to reach for something better. The scary stories had not worked, but in the end, maybe that was the point. Maybe humanity did not need to be scared of its own history. Maybe humanity just needed to learn from it. And maybe, just maybe, the galaxy needed to learn from it too.